because this is a topic that requires somehow some maturity into the engineering teams, okay, and also into the maintenance teams to understand the data. Okay? Of course, it's important to have the experience, but also this new world of data, it's very important to understand how to treat the data and define some governance, okay, on the way you are managing the data.
Hi everyone, I'm glad you're here. This podcast is all about modern day engineering and maintenance challenges, and most importantly, the role of IT to make the workplace easier, safer, and better. It's a space to share insights, have meaningful conversations, and find practical solutions together. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you find value in our discussions and enjoy our content. Tiago, welcome to SHIFTLog, the Enterprise Asset Management podcast. I'm thrilled to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Today I'm on the sunny Portugal. Today is a good weather here.
Fantastic. Okay, let's kick things started in style. If you can introduce yourself, what your background is and what your role is within SAP.
Okay, great. So my name is Tiago Fernandes. I'm part of the EMEA team in digital supply chain workspace. I'm taking care of the asset management and service management business. My background, actually, I have a very different background that we normally find in SAP world. I'm a former reliability engineer. I work in the field during many years, exposed to several, I would say, industries like oil and gas, wind, utilities, and others. Mainly doing optimization and also asset condition analysis into equipments and assets. That's my background.
Fantastic. I think amazing background, Tiago. You touched upon this. You have a reliability engineering background to your career, and then you started there, and then now you transitioned into IT.
Yes, correct.
Which must be really interesting because you have that context and the perspective, and then you can really put things in the right place in terms of how SAP solutions or IT solutions bridge these the requirements for the industry, right?
Exactly. So basically, by far, and I start on SAP in 2018, several roles, but I'm in this role since 2022. And I travel all across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and see this kind of background helps me a lot to understand what are the customer concerns when we are talking about asset performance, asset availability, liability activities. And I believe SAP has a great value proposition specifically because we are positioning our solutions to provide, I would say, a closed loop processes from the asset insights to the maintenance execution, and touching several personas during the asset life cycle, like the gatekeepers, the maintenance planners, the asset directors, the reliability engineers. Everyone can use the SAP landscape to have full visibility about what is happening on their plants, on their infrastructure, on their wind turbine. And with this, I believe we can deliver a very nice value proposition where customers can reach, I would say, the best value that they can achieve with their assets.
Great. Thanks for that, Tiago. So let's jump into the subject today. What I want to talk about is asset performance management, SAP APM solution. You little bit talked about this. Can you elaborate more on what the product does, what sort of areas in business it covers, and main functions?
Sure. So basically, we realize, and let me share my screen to have here, I would say, an anchor slide.
Yeah, I can see you.
You can see my screen, right?
I
So
can.
basically, what we changed in the market was We used to operate, I would say, back in the days since we launched the previous versions of the ERP. We have what we call the enterprise asset management. This is where we normally do, I would say, the transactional maintenance, the current maintenance, okay, maintenance plans, work orders, managing materials, scheduling, and all the things related with the normal and daily maintenance. But then the principles of maintenance and asset condition change a lot during the years, because with the technology we are able to include, I would say, sensors into the equipment, okay, and convert the data that we are getting from the machines, from the equipment, in business information, in valuable information. And this is where I would say in 2018, somehow, we decided to start developing the right side of the slide, to have a system named Asset Performance Management to convert this data and start doing, I would say, a new layer into asset analysis and the enterprise asset management that we call asset performance management. And here, I would say I will divide these into major blocks in terms of capabilities. The first block, it's more related with reliability engineering, okay, where we can execute, I would say, risk and criticality assessments for functional locations, for assets, for now industrial systems. It's a new feature that we launch as well. Then, based on this is where we will define what is the best maintenance policy. Okay. Nowadays, I would say in the past, the customers normally follow the OEM rules, and they have, I would say, also some time schedule based approach, okay, in terms of maintenance. Nowadays, the fact there are many disruptions into the supply chains, it's more important to understand what is the current asset condition, okay, and try to reduce as much as possible the shutdowns in the assets. And this is where the topic around analyze the failure modes, understand what is the reliability of the equipment based on history, based on potential failure modes. It's so important. And this is why we cover also RCM analysis, reliability centered maintenance approach, but also FMEA analysis like failure mode and effect analysis. This is, I would say, the first block associated to the reliability engineering. Then, also because we are agnostic on the type of the equipments that the customer have, and we have some customers with, I would say, old equipments, but they still getting data, they have their OT systems in place. What we are doing, we are getting that data and we are able to connect directly to these kind of machines. There are several protocols that we cover to get this data and convert in asset information in terms of performance, okay. And this is where here we analyze the parameters, we study and understand what are the degradation patterns of the equipments, and so on and so forth. And based on this, and this is where the technology comes in, specifically machine learning and AI, we are building some models to the customer uh, to try to anticipate potential failures. Okay. We work here mainly in two spaces. One is the anomaly detection analysis, specifically to understand what will be the trend of a particular equipment. But also, we also work in calculating the failure curves, okay, following, for instance, some maintenance principles like the Weibull curve and things like that, and try to calculate what is going to be the probability of failure of a particular equipment. So, in a nutshell, we have from one side the reliability engineering stack, but also the topic around asset health as well in another side.
That's a great slide, Tiago, and then a nice narrative to that. A lot of the times when we go and talk to clients, these reliability engineering aspects of the solutions are not the ones usually covered. I think what it seems like is SAP APM is the perfect solution that comes and bridges that gap, right? So because the reliability engineer, if they can perform their job well, then obviously that feeds into the usual maintenance, reduce that efforts going in there, and then making sure that is optimized, right? That's the whole idea, I believe.
Yeah, and one of the advantages, because with the many customers that I visit, is the problems, they already have third-party solutions to do this, but the problem is always the same. To keep a consistent asset information, okay, you need to have everything in the same place, in the same box, specifically for understand what is the real operational context of each asset. It's very important to have all the traditional maintenance activities over there, but also the asset performance activities in the same place. And this is where we close the loop, because we share the same master data information, we share the transactional data information, and with that, we are delivering a very rich information to the customers to take decisions. There is no synchronization, there is no interfaces to manage. And in terms of even for IT perspective, it's very simple to maintain because everything works in the SAP landscape. The integration is already there.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point. That's one of my questions later on, so I'll pick that up now, as you mentioned. So, for SAP clients, using a third-party product, and what you talked about is losing the single source of truth, isn't it? So having it in one
Correct.
place, and this is a cloud product, isn't it?
Service product, okay, with already standard capabilities. We try as much as possible to follow the what is in the market in terms of best practices. But it's a software as a service. Nevertheless, we have an extensibility component, okay, named Business Technology Platform, where the customer can expand, I would say, some standard capabilities. They can develop their own capabilities inside the box, okay, which is interesting in terms of flexibility, because we know we cannot cover all the customer requests, right? It's impossible. No one can do that. But somehow we are already providing out of the box these capabilities, like we have here in the slide, but also the customer can extend. And it's very common customers wants to extend because their knowledge base is something that cannot be replicated. So they sometimes they want to expand. Also, and it's very common customers, for instance, they already have their knowledge, they already have their calculation algorithms. And what we are doing, we are also integrating these into our APM solution. And then there is an interface layer, specifically if the customer already owns his own, I would say, data lakes or the data where they are getting, we can push this information to APM. We will not replace anything. It's only a complementary solution where we provide a visualization interface. There are already some, I would say, cockpits to import this data, analyze the data, run some models over there. And then I would say the most rich part in APM is the capacity to set up business rules. Okay. I have many times these conversations with customers where, okay, they have nice solutions where they are assessing a potential trend, whatever, but then there is no automation in the process. So means that they need to go into the SAP system and open a maintenance notification. And this is where we are trying to cover to improve some automation. Let me show you one example. I think, Deepal, if you don't mind, it's an example from the system where we have, I would say, three major personas involved into the asset management part. We have the reliability engineering working with APM. We have the maintenance planner receiving all the information associated from the notifications. And then we have also the maintenance technician in the field to execute the job. So basically, the scenario we have, it's, for instance, the system will generate an alert caused by an external event, okay? And then automatically it will generate an execution activity. So this is a plant that we have in Germany, okay? Typically represents, I would say, an industrial unit, could be a process industry or whatever, an oil and gas plant, a chemical plant, whatever. And what is happening here is during a production phase, okay, where we are executing a mixing activity, what we have is, I would say, an external event. Okay. So we are transferring the stock to the tanks. Okay. And it's going to happen, I would say, a tank overfilling. Okay. And this tank overfilling must be somehow reported to the maintenance planner to execute the job. The beauties here is when the safety valve opens, okay, because we have the capacity to integrate directly into the machines, okay, and all the operational systems. What is going to happen now is um, SAP APM, we have the capacity to collect all the events, okay, so means the alert is generated and automatically, based on the business rules that we define, with a certain threshold, so this is very easy to configure, automatically generates a maintenance notification in SAP PM. So fully automated, no human intervention, which helps the customers to automate and reduce the time to execute the job. And when you reduce the asset downtimes, is money in your bank account, right?
Of course, yeah. Great illustration. This particular, the smart factory that you just showed now in your example, this is a factory which clients can visit
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so it's fully open. You just need to contact, or you know the process, or you contact me and we can set up virtual tours or even physical tours in Germany. We have these in our headquarters in Germany.
That's a great way of showcasing how products in action, isn't it, rather than
Yeah,
just
yeah.
demonstrating. You collect the sensor data and then use machine learnings and AI models to predict the failures in the future, failure modes, as well as the exact date which it's going to go down for
Mhm.
the reliability engineers and the planners to act on it. How matured are these algorithms and models?
It's a great question. And I believe SAP is being very clever on the way we are managing this. Okay. The solution itself comes already with some, I would say, tested algorithms in the solution. Okay. Very well proven. By the way, this is mathematical models already tested quite often, very robust. However, what is SAP is doing is we are opening our landscape to integrate the best in class platforms to help us to identify this model. One example, it's an innovation that we are working a lot. It's the visual inspection patterns that we are using. For instance, we have some customers now requiring, I need to use cameras to understand what is the pattern of a particular equipment. Could be an overheating, could be a vibration pattern, could be a reduction on a specific component. And here we are using SAP partners platforms, okay, where the data and the technology it's very very rich, okay, to make this kind of data acquisition, taking picture, analyzing the images, detecting the patterns. But then when it comes directly into the execution, So we detect the pattern, we report the pattern, and then we need to start a business process. This is where SAP APM comes in. For the final user, there is no everything inside SAP. Okay, we are just having this kind of technology running into the background. Okay, and which give us the flexibility to select which the best and the most robust partner to work with us in this space.
And if I'm a client, if I want to implement APM, is there a specific way to approach this, like starting small and expanding? So, would like to understand from client's perspective.
So my advice here is, and we are focused a lot on adoption. Okay, so our advice is always start with a pilot. Okay, select, for instance, 2 or 3 or 4 critical equipments or infrastructures, whatever, and sit with partners like AG. Okay, very specialized on this space. You know the process, you know the solutions. Okay, and define, I would say, scope for a pilot. Okay, and then after 1 or 2 months of analysis, let's review the results and see how can be defined a template to expand. And this is the way like our customers are doing their approach to asset performance management, because this is a topic that requires somehow some maturity into the engineering teams, okay, and also into the maintenance teams to understand the data. Okay, of course it's important to have the experience, but also this new world of data. Okay, it's very important to understand how to treat the data and define some governance on the way you are managing the data. So in a nutshell, I would say to have a pilot, small pilot, and then after this to define some phases to expand the project.
That's great. And I believe I'm sure there are clients that you're working with who has matured from that point into full solution being rolled out into the whole organization.
Yeah, correct. Yes. They are, I would say, the industry that is leveraging this a lot is, I would say, all the process industries, because they have, I would say, critical equipments, but also the infrastructures and also the railways industry. So if you go to SAP website, you can see, I would say, mainly these industries working on this space. Utilities, some utilities as well. But we are receiving a lot of interested, because customers realize it's way more, I would say, interesting to have all the information in the same place. You reduce the workload, consolidate all the information, but also at the same time you can see what we have in terms of asset health, asset criticality, and so on.
Okay, fantastic. I think we are coming close to the end of the session today. I have one or two more questions to ask. But you mentioned in the earlier part of the discussion that the APM can tap into, I think that's what you meant, APM can directly take data from sensors, but for all the equipments, if there is already a solution in place which collects information to a data lake or sort of historian, then you can get that information from there as well. Both are possible, I believe.
Both are possible. So APM uses some technology to connect directly to equipments, but I would say 90% of the cases, specifically if you are talking with industrial plants, customers, they already have their own process historians or SCADA systems to collect this information. They are not using and making any use of this data. And this is where we will connect directly to their own databases and start executing this analysis. And also there are some customers that they want to see this information in real time. We can also do it. Actually, I'm working in a project, I cannot disclose the customer, but where the customer can see and is setting up a full asset control center where they can see all the information in real time, and APM is being used exactly for that.
I think I get not so often asked is that some organization has a dedicated reliability engineer. A lot of the companies that I personally met was serious about improving the reliability engineering and improving the way the maintenance work to come out from breakdown culture has a dedicated reliability engineer. But at the same time, it's not a role in certain cases you can justify that much, isn't it? But some organizations have seen that this role being spread among number of different other roles, like among planners as well. I don't know whether you have seen such scenarios and whether that particular arrangement affects them effectively using APM.
Yeah, basically, and based on the industries I've been working on back in my days in the field, the industry that has, I would say, a clear role to work on with reliability engineers is oil and gas or chemical industry. Okay, because these are, I would say, potentially dangerous industries on the operation side, and they have a special care on keeping the assets in the, I would say, in the most safety levels, and this is why reliability is so important. Okay, where I don't see this more in utilities now, it's becoming more and more often, but more in the data side, not in the reliability side. So we see many data scientists now working on this space. But being a data scientist, it's not enough if you don't have the background of reliability, like a mechanical engineer with expertise on these topics or a corrosion engineer. So I think even the SAP and other partners or other third party applications, even as we are hiring these kind of profiles, okay, to work with customers specifically, not only to implement the solutions, but to help them to map and develop their reliability programs, okay? Because nowadays, more than ever, customers are more concerned to reduce as much as possible the costs of maintenance that they have and set up their programs not based on the run to fail approach, but more how reliable is my asset? How can I reduce the maintenance windows and things like that? Customers are more concerned on these seconds.
We talked about number of these things about the product and then some of the prep activities as well. Is there anything else that in your advice, based on the clients that you work with and your experience in working with clients implementing APM, that the clients could do beforehand as prerequisites or prep to make sure they get the best out of APM?
In terms of prerequisites, in terms of changing the process, right?
Yeah, processes, people, and things like that, and even sometimes dependent technologies.
So I would say we see many customers now trying, and I will give the IT perspective, okay, not the business perspective, because generally we have good acceptance from the business side. Okay. From the IT perspective, we see now a trend. Customers, they are trying to simplify as much as possible their IT landscape. Okay. Which means that with SAP APM integrated in ECC or S4 HANA, it will help them to reduce their TCO. So there are no interfaces to manage. There are no, I would say, costs on the specialization on the IT team to maintain a third party solution, um, because everything works inside the same landscape. This is, I would say, one value point for IT, to have APM in place integrated with S4 or ECC. The other part, as a prerequisite, I would say many customers now, they are on their transformational journeys, updating and upgrading their ERPs, specifically from ECC to S4HANA. It's the right moment to think on master data, okay, asset master data, but also material master data. It's very important, this space, to have a kind of clean data inside a clean core. And then on top of this, this is where we should, I would say, implement solutions like APM, because this is where you start a new, fresh analysis with new data or corrected data. And based on this, we can extract more value and more information about the assets itself. Okay, so wrapping up, I would say first, optimize the number of interfaces that you need to manage. It will be, I would say, very, very, very cheap only to maintain APM with the ERP part. And then the last, I would say, it will be the master data topic.
Great. That's a brilliant way to wrap up the session, I believe. Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed the session, and I'm sure everyone who listens will get quite a lot of insights to this as well. So thanks for coming in and taking part in SHIFTLog.
Thank you, Deepal. Thank you to all the AG team. Keep doing what you are doing very well with customers. You are a very important partner to SAP. Everything that you need from my side in terms of any questions to the audience, just drop me an email or even contact Deepal. We have a very close relationship in terms of doing partnerships for projects. So feel free to contact us.
Sure, will do, Tiago. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the conversation today. If you have any questions, thoughts, please drop in a comment. We'll pick them up. If you have any suggestions, topics that you want us to cover in future episodes, let us know that too. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.